YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back, and today we're ranking every starting NFL quarterback from worst to first heading into the 2021 NFL season. So the past really doesn't matter. It's essentially predictions in ranking format for this upcoming season moving forward here. And we're not stopping at quarterbacks. I do every single position group. I rank units, offense, defense, all of it. We got you covered. So really excited about these upcoming videos here. You get a little preview with a YouTube Shorts video before these release, so make sure you turn notifications on to check those out. You guys are voting for a lot of things on our Twitter and get NFL updates, so you make sure you follow that Twitter as well. Link pinned in the description and comments for anything you need. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Be much appreciated. Yeah, here's our Twitter, kind of in the way here, but at GoatHouse NFL, you guys are basically creating a future video. You're going through the process here, getting all the seeds done for the playoffs. You voted for division winners. We're going to keep going on with this. It's a good reason to follow our Twitter along with NFL updates. So quarterback ranking starting at the bottom group here. Again, this isn't based off the past, so rookies will be ranked and rookies will play well. Some will, some won't this year. So people always have a problem with me ranking rookies. So it's just how it is. I'm predicting this upcoming season. Why base things purely off the past here? Number 32, I did a recent video predicting who will be the starting quarterback for each NFL team. I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play this year. Maybe he does at some point. I don't think he's starting week 1. So I went ahead and ranked Tyrod Taylor here, and he came in at 32. A solid quarterback, a lot of experience, can use his legs as well. He doesn't have the best supporting cast around him, so that'll play a part as well. Sam Darnold, I have not been a big fan of, and nobody really should be a fan of Sam Darnold's past game. What does he got for the future, though? Some big question marks there. There really isn't enough there to tell me that he's going to play a lot better. I think he plays a little bit better. I think really the league's in a pretty good spot with talented players. I was going to say quarterbacks with players everywhere. But I do think he steps up. It's a little tough because I do like their coaching staff. I'm a big fan of Matt Rule. I like Joe Brady. But last year I wasn't really thrilled with the play calling and how they handled Teddy Bridgewater. I thought he almost looked worse than he was in the past. So there's not really a lot there that says they're going to make Sam Darnold better for sure. He's got some pretty good weapons, a pretty rough offensive line. So I do worry about that. I do think he could head in the right direction, that right path with time. I got Daniel Jones at 30. The Giants, they went ahead and added receivers. I thought they had receivers already, but they do get better. I like Kenny Galladay, I like Kadarius Toney. They definitely get better. Kenny Galladay's a stud. But I don't think receivers was really the problem. Evan Engram did have some costly drops, so if we want to put it on the tight end here and there, sure. I think the problem was two things. Daniel Jones' play was very sloppy, very inconsistent, kind of forced things at times, and then big-time fumbling issues, obviously, when getting hit. But the offensive line sure did not help him at all, and the offensive line still looks the same on paper. You would think young guys, Andrew Thomas, one example. Will Hernandez is fantastic. He's still getting better. But the young guys could be getting better, which would mean by default the offensive line is better. I'm good with that statement, but it's not going to be an insane amount better. So, really, if you guys go back, remember me talking about, if you follow us on Twitter, I tweet during games. I also give recaps. Week 1 against Steelers, prime time, I was getting hyped. I'm like, who is this Daniel Jones guy? The first half, he was looking really good. I'm like, man, this guy's got some potential. And then he kind of just threw it all away there in the second half of the game, and that continued the rest of the year for the most part. So, and there was times during the year where the Giants were like, all right, we'll just make him a game manager. We can't turn the ball over because our defense is doing enough to win. But then the offense is doing absolutely nothing. And then when you have him try to do something, he turns the ball over. So it's in there, though. That talent is somewhere in there. We've seen little glimpses of it, But it's hard to trust him fully, but just like Sam Darnold could continue to improve. Andy Dalton will be 29. I believe he'll be the starter. I would prefer it to be Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields could, be better than Andy Dalton right away. I would have Justin Fields ranked higher than 29 for sure. You'll see who the other rookies are. I'll have him around that range if he's the starter. But Dalton, I like the Bears receivers, actually. Allen Robinson, I think is actually getting better. The ability to play in the slot a little more often. Darnell Mooney, I like him a lot. And they, they got more than just that as well. But I think this receiver unit is maybe a little on the underrated side. So he's got the weapons. I do worry a little bit about the tackle play this year. I think Jenkins was a fine pick. They're going to move him from right to left tackle, though. A little bit of an adjustment period, perhaps. and I think they're mainly going to run the ball a lot. So I do think he will be pressured off the. I do like the interior offense line. I'll say that, but I think it's going to be, maybe a lack of production, which is not all about production here, but ranking for this upcoming season. I don't think you'll have a ton of production because I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think we'll get pressured off the edge, and he hasn't really shown us anything recently that says he should be higher than this. But I do trust him a little more than some of his other quarterbacks to turn the ball over a little too much. Drew Lock has had some turnover issues. I still like his upside. He has more upside to me than Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. Maybe that it just sounds like that's just me, or I'm part of a small group of people, but that's kind of odd for some reason. Drew Lock, very limited reps. I don't need a whole bunch of reps to tell you what a quarterback's future is going to look like. You shouldn't either. It's kind of worked out for me in the past. I haven't really seen a whole lot to like, but I do think he can grow a little bit. Just don't expect a lot. He does have a collection of talent throughout that Broncos offense. I think he'll step up a little bit, but being at 28, that's kind of the little bit, because based off the pass, he'd probably be 31 or 32 here. Jalen Hurts kind of impressed when he first got thrown in this situation last year, but then teams started to game plan properly for him, and he, didn't play as well. But he's still impressed. He impressed with his arm talent, being patient in the pocket, relaxed. But we know what he can do on the ground as well. I think he'll mainly make his money on the ground. New coaching staff, new system possibly. How will that work for him? So some question marks there. Tua Tagovailoa, did have some big-time struggles last year. I still like the upside of him. I guess the question mark is, I think people wonder, that wasn't the same Tua. And I know guys going from college to the NFL, it's a big difference, but still, it just did not seem anywhere near. And I'm not really talking about his production, his talent, whatever. It just didn't really seem anywhere near the player. It's almost a good thing. We know we can get that out of him. Perhaps you add Will Fuller, you add Jalen Waddle, some other players as well, so you can definitely get more out of him. But maybe you kind of go back. Maybe that injury the last time we see him at Alabama really threw him off, and that's more of the reason. So some question marks there as well. Some people doubting him. I believe in his future. But was pretty sloppy with the ball downfield at times last year and was kind of going for the layup throw, but you could make the case that was the play calling, that was the offense. So it's a bit of a mystery. I think he'll be up and down. You'll have some really good games, you'll have some bad games. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'd probably would rank higher, meaning better, if I really thought he was going to start every game this year. So that's the tough part here. Is it kind of a quarterback that's really stayed the same, didn't improve his game. Therefore, teams know how to game plan for him and make him look worse, but he's not really losing talent, of course. Throw in injuries on top of that, and that causes a little bit of a problem. I think he could start playing, a little better, maybe like 2 years ago again. I just don't know if he starts this whole season, because of his play, because of injury concerns. So it's tough to rank him, with this being 2021 through 2022 season rankings. It's tough to rank him any higher if those are my beliefs, even though he has more talent than some guys ahead of him. Next group of quarterbacks, I got Mac Jones at 24. I think Mac Jones is going to start. I think he'll play well. He's got the pieces around him. It's just going to be, it's going to look like a system quarterback. He's going to go out there, go through the motions, which he does well, make that accurate throw. He can escape pressure. He can buy time. He's very smart, has pretty high awareness. I'm not expecting crazy things from him, but it's a perfect situation for the Patriots for him to succeed. He's probably not going to have a whole bunch of production through the air, even though he did the last year at Alabama, but I think it's a safe bet to be around this range in terms of quarterback rankings. Jared Goff hasn't played as well as the last couple of years as he did about 3-4 years ago, but he still has kind of those glimpses with that big play downfield. He's got a better offensive line, I think, now at the lines. This offensive line on paper, at least, looking very, very good, but weaker in terms of the playmaker, I should say receiver department, because I do like the running backs. So we'll see how that'll be. I think up and down, inconsistent. Fitzpatrick, 22. I like Fitzpatrick. He's going to go in there and get the job done, I think. Not going to really wow, even though he wowed at the end of games last year. But he's got a pretty good supporting cast now, new, in Washington. Hasn't really been a thing in the past, but adding on top of Terry McLaurin the last couple of years has been fantastic. So I think you go out there and get the job done. He's kind of had his bad turnovers at times. Even last year we had mainly positives for him. Helped Miami have a pretty good season. Carson Wentz, very tough to rank because he would, based off last year, would rank way lower in this because it was atrocious play. But going to a Colts team, pretty good offensive line. I love the coaching staff, love the play calling. He may just have to go out there and just hit the open receiver. But at times he struggled with that. He even struggled with clean pockets last year. So you're kind of back and forth here. You got the great coaching staff, just got to hit the open receiver. He's got a good running game. good play calling, but then he kind of struggled with those things last year. The Eagles' offensive line was hurt, but it still played solid last year. So it's kind of back and forth here. I think he'll definitely, as you can see, you probably rank him a little lower based off only last year, but I think he'll play a little better. I think they're mainly going to be a running team, maybe roll out and dunk it off to somebody, so I don't know if he'll light it up this year, which some people think he could get back to his old ways, but that was some time ago with injuries and he can play okay. I got a rookie here at 20, Zach Wilson, was a top tier prospect. There's always the crowd that complains if I got rookies in there, but I'm predicting this season, and breaking news, rookies play well. See what Justin Herbert did. That was kind of rare. I'm not predicting anybody to do that, but it happens. So I think Zach Wilson and the Jets actually got some good receivers as well. I really like what they did. Adding Corey Davis. They got Denzel Mims from last year. They added Elijah Moore, who I'm a big fan of. So, and they didn't really focus on the running back position too much. So they want to pass. They want to throw the ball. So he'll have his up and downs. Going from BYU, playing a little weaker competition, going to the Jets. Maybe there'll be an adjustment period. Sure. Roethlisberger early last year played pretty well. Wasn't doing anything crazy. Was kind of just getting the ball to open receivers in a short passing game. Then teams started to figure him out, and he had a pretty bad second half of the year, some pretty bad turnovers as well. So where is he at? Is another year more rest, I suppose, after that injury before last season? Is that a better thing, or is he just declining? So it's kind of up in the air. I think where they succeed, again, is that quick, small passing game. So even if he's playing well, it's because of that. So it's tough to rank him any higher than that, especially the way he left us with what he left us with at the end of last year. Jameis Winston, this might be higher than most people have him. He's playing for the Saints. I do wish they had better receivers, specifically downfield options, and I probably put him higher on this list, actually. But he still has Michael Thomas. You can't forget, was hurt last year. He'll be much, much better this year. Alvin Kamara could argue as a receiver, and Sean Payton leading the way as well. And he has the running game helps too. I believe in Winston. I believe he could learn some things from Drew Brees last year. So I think he'll play better than what's expected. Again, I do wish they had more of a downfield threat. I got a rookie, Trevor Lawrence, here at 17. I think this will be a high-powered offensive team here, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they'll run the ball a bit. They'll play some small ball, but Trevor Lawrence will get the job done, and I think he'll have a fantastic rookie season here. So he's at 17. Even with a rookie of his talents, sometimes I would put that guy even higher, but I think there's a lot of very good quarterbacks, established quarterbacks in the league already as well. We'll talk about 16 to 13. I got Derek Carr at 16, kind of in the middle here. Always seems to start like a top 10 quarterback and then can't finish that way, so it's kind of split the difference in the middle. But I think guys like Henry Ruggs can step up for him. Darren Waller continue to ball out there. And some other, they got quite a few other receivers as well. And then the offensive line, I think, will be okay. So let's hope it's okay, because when he's been under pressure, which hasn't been a whole lot the last few years, it hasn't really looked pretty. So let's hope the offensive line's all right. But kind of middle of the pack here, Derek Carr. So we'll see. We'll see if he can stay more consistent here. Sometimes the guy in the middle of the pack, he will be the consistent guy, but needs to stay a little more consistent throughout the season. I got Kyler Murray at 15. Tough one as well, because Kyler Murray played pretty damn well early in the year last year. Second half of the season, I did not like his game, especially in the passing game. Was a little out of control, throwing off the bat. The footwork was pretty damn bad, honestly. I was actually predicting interceptions before he let it go based on his footwork. So you don't want to see that. But then you bring in, he had a shoulder issue. He was trying to play hurt. He was trying to come back in games, late in the year. So what does that say about this year? If he's healthy, which he's supposed to be right now, he's going to go back to playing in the first half of the year and then tack on that he's a young, developing player. He'll play better in the first half of the year. Or is that something that's going to be nagging like it was last year? So he was pretty sloppy late last year. I do think he'll develop, given that he's in the top. So that's why I have him in the top 15 here. Joe Burrow at 14. I still think Joe Burrow can be that best quarterback from that class last year, even though right now it's Herbert. I still think he can get there. He had Jamar Chase. That's fantastic with the other great receivers. You still worry about the offensive line a little bit. Mainly if they can run the ball, that'll make things easier that makes anything easier for every quarterback, everything easier. So some things are going to fall on that, actually, but it'll be a high-powered passing attack here. They'll air it out. He has some good production. Just got to stay healthy, I suppose, is a little bit of a question there. Baker Mayfield at 13 was fantastic in that first year. That's Stefanski system, and he can continue on from that. He kind of ended the year around this range. I think he's kind of there. He'll continue to grow. I don't think he's just going to go straight to the top 5 or anything, but I think he could get there with some more time. But yeah, he comes in at 13. Again, love the way he played when he first came in his rookie year, then not so much the second year and last year. So can we get the more consistent Baker Mayfield here? I believe in him. 12 up to 9. I got Kirk Cousins at 12. Kirk Cousins, interesting because the second half of last year played insane, really. It almost looked like he developed escape pressure, throw on the run somehow, which is rare at that. Not that he's an old quarterback, but extremely rare at that age. It's usually something you have or you don't. So it's only part of a second half of a season, though. So can I trust him? Is that Kirk Cousins for good now? He's going to play like that for good because he started off last year pretty poorly. So that's interesting. If he continues to play the way he did in the second half of the season, he'll finish in the top 10 for sure. So it's kind of on the fence there. Matt Ryan, who definitely feels like he's been declining a bit. He's going to throw for a lot of yards like he did last year. He had some bad turnovers. He took a lot of bad sacks that really wasn't on his offensive line. He hasn't really lost any on the arm strength. It's just judgment on plays, coverages, and just decision-making overall. So it's another tough one to rank. Arthur Smith coming in. Could that help him out? Could simplify things for him so he could be better. Ryan Tannehill gets Matt Ryan's top target, Julio Jones, so that could boost him a little bit. Didn't have a whole lot of yards, had enough yards last year in terms of production, but it was a touchdown machine. But he has that touch pass downfield. He's able to escape the pressure. I really like the way he's playing. It seems like he's growing with this Titans team still. So that's fantastic for him. So yeah, now has Julio Jones, A.J. Brown getting better. So I expect, really off last year, I thought he was better than a top 10 quarterback, but it's hard to label him that going into a year, well inside the top 10. But I do have him at 10. Justin Herbert, I got him in the top 10. The young quarterback. It's a little risky of me because realistically, there could be a sophomore slump. Because I think he actually worked. It was weird because that coaching staff presented a system where it just worked so well for Justin Herbert, but their play calling and decision making was what got them fired, but not really the system for Justin Herbert. So taking that system away from him, we'll see exactly what kind of play style they run, but and then another new coaching staff to learn year 2. It's realistic that could cause some problems, and I do think it could cause problems here and there, but I'm not obviously ranking him in the top 10. I'm not really thinking that it will create this disaster or anything like that. But you kind of got to remember what the kid did last year, and he looked like a whole different guy than what we saw in the last couple years at Oregon. So there's really no reason, now that he's settled in, confident, comfortable here in the NFL, for him to kind of backtrack. He definitely has the arm talent. Kind of playing hero ball late in games resulted in turnovers, so I would like for him to cut down on that. It wasn't a serious problem. But there, and he has the talent around him. The offensive line got better, I think. Once you look at the free agency, but then you look at the draft, and then as a whole, you say, okay, it's definitely heading in the right track. So that's good as well. Not that I expect the offensive line to be great or anything like that, but there's no reason for him to take a step down, even though there are ways you can argue, maybe going from that system, this new system year 2 could hurt a little bit, but obviously I believe in Justin Herbert. He looked like a whole new type of player last year, so hopefully it continues on that. On to 8, up to 5. I got Matthew Stafford at 8. Haven't been a huge Matthew Stafford guy the last few years, even though I recognize he's very, very talented. But now you throw him in the Rams system, McVay's system, with that running game, but then those receivers, that collection of receivers there, and their play style, he's going to look a lot better. He's going to look a lot more productive, better here with the Rams. So I got him in the top 8, even though he hasn't been a top 8 quarterback yet. I do have him there. Lamar Jackson at 7. Obviously factor in his running ability, how dominant he is, how much of a force he is, factor he is to team's game plan. But I do believe in him as a passer, and I actually believe that he'll get better as a passer this year. They upgraded. We can't expect a whole lot. I know the receiver unit looks better. Can't expect a ton, but I do think improving it definitely helps Lamar Jackson. Basically, I think he takes the next step as a passer, but I do factor in running here. Dak Prescott at number 6. Before the injury, fantastic, very productive passer. Could use his legs as well, throw on the run. We know that. We'll see how he is after the injury, but I think he's a phenomenal quarterback here, and he has the weapons to get in the offensive line to assist on that production. The old man GOAT still in the top 5. I got number 5, Tom Brady, who was up and down last year, but he gets the production, he makes the big plays when it absolutely counts. More chemistry with his offensive line, with his weapons, with his coaching staff here going into year 2. We started to see it clicked more late last year. So He's not going to get better in terms of gaining talent, obviously, but he could get better because of that. Or we did see him decline, not so much on the arm talent at all. He still has the arm talent, but I guess decision-making last year, we saw him decline a little bit. And some really good defenses threw him off with some disguises, some things he actually hasn't seen probably because the new school type of defense are throwing everything at you just like offenses these days. But so which way will he go because of those things? But I got him in the top 5 here. And then on to the top 4, the big 4 here. I got Aaron Rodgers at number 4, who was the MVP for sure, was my pick for the MVP and was the MVP last year. Fantastic year. If I was confident he was going to show up soon to camp and be with his players, his guys, and that he was going to play week 1, I'd probably have him at number 2, to be quite honest with you. I'd probably have him right there, top 3 for sure. I've been confident that he'll be in there week 1. I'm very confident he'll be playing at some point at least this year, but I do think it'll be week 1. But it is starting to get a little more on the fence for me as time goes by. The holdout could be serious, and then, even if it does show up, is he showing up right before the season starts? That hurts a little bit, so that's why he's tough to rank, and I didn't really want to squeeze him in the top 3 because of that, but he very easily, tomorrow we wake up, and he's like, all right, I'm going to show up. I can easily put him at number 2 then, so it's just that close between these top-tier guys. Josh Allen at 3, another one I think is a little bold, a little risky of me to put him at 3, because he's had some sloppy play over the past. He definitely cut down on that last year, but he's really had only 1 year. I mean, it's a fact, actually, that he's only had 1 year playing at this level. I just don't really see any reason to, go backwards here. He's a young, talented quarterback that improved that much in that next year for him. Then why can't he do it again? Another year with a guy like Stephon Diggs and that receiver unit, Another season under Dabo, of course, he's back. That's fantastic. So, and I think he's getting smarter. He still makes some of those hero decisions, and I like that. I don't like the guy that gives up, throws the ball away, but sometimes you got to make the smarter decision. But I think he's getting better in that category, even though it's still there. It's still a thing. So, I got him in the top 3. Maybe a little bold, risky to me predict him to be there, but he played almost like that last year. Just see him stay a little more consistent. There was sometimes in the playoffs where they weren't getting as much of him, as much as the offense from him as we would have predicted. So we'll see if he takes that next step. I got Russell Wilson at 2. First half of the year, Russell Wilson was number 1. Second half of the year, really wasn't, not that he was bad, but it wasn't even close to being number 2. And there was a lot of times where people blamed offensive line where we should be blaming Russell Wilson. A lot of the sacks were on him. So I don't want to see any of that play. But what they're trying to do with this offense, it actually feels like they're trying to go more explosive in terms of the passing game. I do think they want to get Chris Carson more involved. He's got to be healthy. So, but they're adding the collection of weapons that they have there, of course, on top of their already weapons. Their current weapons, I should say. DK Metcalf's getting better, but prioritizing getting Eskridge in there, who I think could be a factor right away. Just a dangerous home run hitting player. I think says what they kind of want to do there. So I think Russell Wilson will have insane production this year. Hopefully stays a little more consistent. I do think they made the offensive line a little bit better. They'll stop interior pressure a little more, and that should be able to help a little bit. So I think he'll be much better than he was in the second half of the year, and I think this could be one of the more productive seasons. Let's hope he didn't decline, though, because I'm not saying I put him at number 2, so obviously I'm not saying he declined. But it almost looked that way, but it was just such a small sample size that we just can't say that. So maybe a little risky like Josh Allen putting Russell Wilson at number 2, because what if he's just like that second half of the year guy, and then he's really not even, he might not even be top 10 then. So, fingers crossed there, but you got to trust it. And I got Patrick Mahomes at 1. Should not be a surprise. I think he's the best player in football. Offensive line is healthy, but also better than it was. I think the running game will be better. That's going to make things easier for him. He's going to be better. They added some, adding Cornell Powell, guys like that could help as well. But it's scary to think he actually can get better as well, just like Josh Allen, those guys. But yeah, shouldn't really be a surprise. Patrick Mahomes, number 1, the most dangerous man in football, in my opinion. Yeah, something that stands out, dominant defenses that really he kind of makes them change their game. A guy that you can't blitz. They almost have to change their coverages to fit, what aren't we going to get torched by because of Patrick Mahomes? So there's just some reasons why I think he's the best in football. And I do have him at number 1. Running back rankings will be next. Remember to turn notifications on so there's a preview in version of YouTube Shorts that comes out. You get a top 5 sneak peek. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications on. for those. And then follow our Twitter. You guys are voting for a lot of things there. Also get constant NFL updates and just constantly talking in general about sports. So check it out. Link down below. But yeah, that is going to do it for my quarterback rankings heading into the season. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.